said that he couldn't.
You want an investment edge, but all you hear is noise, hype, and half-truths. Every signal is solid information, but only if you can see the bigger picture. This is where the Quasar magic happens. Weather, charts, news, all financial signals funneled into a single dashboard. Data alone isn't enough. Quasar Markets turns it into energy, sharp, clear, precise. Optimize with Quasar Markets today, your edge when investing.
You're running full speed, but the markets are faster. Quasar Markets Live brings the world's top financial minds to you. Everything you need to know in one place. Learn from elite educators and gain a competitive edge, leveling the playing field for you. Join the conversation. Quasar Markets Live.
Good morning, Quasar Markets Live. How's everyone doing today? You got Howard here. It is Friday, and after 3 straight red sessions, futures are trying to stabilize into the PCE print and the fresh tariff headlines that just seem to never go away. We've got TikTok to talk about a little bit more on inflation. the Fed Cook legal saga, and Amazon has reached an FTC settlement, and then map it to the sectors, trades, and the quick crypto read through. So we had made a little bit of a move up here, traders, as PCE got announced at 8:30. Took a nice little bounce. We saw the Q move from about 930, 594 up to about 597, but we have seen a retracement since. And as I said, futures up about 28 basis points on the SPY right now. On the NASDAQ, up about 20 basis points, but we do see that the tick is currently negative and has gone negative here over the last 5 minutes. And advanced decline is in the positive for the first time in a few days here, up about 1,323. Gold staying real steady at 37.57 here. Looks like it wants to make a run to all-time highs. We had Peter Thomas on yesterday talking everything metals. He mentioned that he's hearing a lot of $5,000 calls from the folks at Goldman Sachs and other industry insiders that he speaks with. Silver holding nicely above 45. When Steve gets back on Monday, we'll have to find out if he held his silver or sold it. I'm going to think he held on, especially since he was out of town, and I know he has a lot of physical silver, so that makes it hard to sell. So we'll see what we get there. From it, I think the top story's got to be tariffs, right? It just continues to dominate the headlines, and what we do see is the president has announced 100% tariffs effective October 1st on imported branded and patented pharma. It does have exemptions if the company is actively building U.S. plants. So what does that mean, or how is that translated already into the market? You can see that Eli Lilly up about 1.42% on this news. AbbVie up about 1.4% also, and Merck up about 1.56%. Reason being, those are three companies that are already in the works or have announced U.S.-based plants. So the president has made it clear that he will extend those tariff relief to those companies. On the other side of that, Novo Nordisk down about 75 basis points right now on that news, as they are one that would be hit probably the hardest from these. Along with the tariffs on that, he also announced tariffs 25% on heavy trucks. That has PCAR, excuse me, who is the producer of Peterbilt, if you don't know, semis and such, up about 4.84% this morning, U.S. large truck manufacturer. And then he announced 50% tariffs on kitchen cabinets, vanities, and upholstered furniture. Although upholstered furniture came in at 30%. That is negatively affecting a few of the players out there. Wayfair down about 2.6% on that news. Restoration Hardware down 3.7%, and William Sonoma down 3.24% on that. Those are the names I would be keeping an eye on personally here over the next few days. They're going to be the ones that are going to be the most volatile with this going on. From a trading angle, home goods resellers and importers took the first hit. Truck tariffs are a little bit more nuanced. U.S. OEMs with domestic capacity may gain share, which is what PCAR falls into there. Global OEMs that export to the U.S. might face some margin risk. And on the pharma side, I sort of laid it out. The winners so far, companies either U.S.-based like AbbVie or Merck and Lilly, who have already announced that they are building plants in the U.S. to produce their own pharmaceuticals. So that has been a big part. Like I said, it's all about tweet analysis here today, so to speak. And Trump has approved the TikTok deal, at least from the U.S. side here. The White House approved a plan valuing TikTok at about $14 billion. The structure of that deal, as you can see on the screen, has Oracle, Silver Lake, the hedge fund private equity company, and MGX taking the lead. They will own about 45 to 50% of this new company. ByteDance will be just under 20%. Existing ByteDance US holders, which are SIG, GA, and KKR, all of the private equity and hedge funds, retain their pieces. China still does need to sign off on the algorithm and export aspects of it. But my takeaway is that the political overhang eases for the U.S. user base and advertisers. And Oracle, definitely a winner here, gets deeper data integration. So I do think it's solid for them. This is, I'm sort of just sick of this TikTok saga as it is, I think, and excited for it to be over and us to move on to other things. Do want to mention in about 4 minutes here, I do have Scott Bauer, the legend, coming in, longtime Goldman Sachs trader, and now the CEO over at Prosper Trading Academy. Going to come in, talk a little bit about the PCE data today, what he's looking at the markets, and an amazing trader event that Prosper is putting on in Las Vegas in December for traders that are interested. Myself, Big Beat will both be there attending. And a great crew of things going on there. So he'll be in a little bit to talk about that. And then I've got my main man, Stephen Flanagan, the forex expert, in at about 9:45 here today to talk about what's going on with the DXY, the Dixie macro look. What does he think about the PCE data today? And what does he see coming up on rates and such? We'll say rates today are slightly down. US 30-year now at 2.74, coming off the lows of the morning, but still down a little bit here. 10-year at about 4.168. So we do see that. And I did mention the Dixie, the DXY, 98.27. So pulling back. We'll find out where Mr. Flanagan thinks the weekly finish needs to happen here to keep this positive uptrend in place and for maybe King Dollar to come back into vogue. We'll mention VIX pulling back down into that $16 range here. If it pulls back below 16, again, I will reset and buy some. I sold mine yesterday on the nice pump up towards 18. But again, what do? Rinse and repeat. I buy VIX when it gets cheap and I don't need the protection, so to speak, in anticipation of the times you do. And we will talk to Mr. Bauer about that a little bit. He is the one that taught me all about the VIX. Do see WTI and the Brent up slightly here. WTI up almost 60 basis points. Oil has made a nice move up over the week here. So oil, one of the big winners here this week, along with gold and silver, as we've seen. Taking a look at the Mag 7, it's been a little bit of a rocky, volatile road so far. NVIDIA's been down, then up, so we'll see what we get from that. Apple's set to open down about a percentage point here. So again, Apple's been the one in the Mag 7 strongest performers this week with those big iPhone numbers. And then Netflix on the downside. Amazon very resilient based upon the news of that FTC settlement, so like to see that. And Tesla back up about 1.3% here this morning. I do see the man has entered it, and this is coming straight from the floor of CBOE, the CBOE in Chicago. Let's change the screen here and bring him in. Scott Bauer,
hey,
how are you doing today?
Good morning. What is happening?
Not much. How's things looking over there? We got some bulls in the room today, or what are we thinking?
Yeah, I think they're questioning. We see SPOO's up 18 right now, and I'm not sure that anybody is getting overly excited or, ahead of their skis right now. I think pretty much everybody wants to see what the trade is like. There's still a lot of concern about the government shutting down next week. Now, when we talk about that, is that really a big deal? No, it's not. But the perception of that and the way that the market may, react or interpret is probably not going to be positive, but it's really not a big deal.
Yeah, it's one of those ones that gets bandied around. Again, being in DC for 30 years, you would see it all the time. It affects the lower level of the government. Those are the folks that, need their paychecks month to month, week to week, and don't necessarily get them. So it hurts there. But they do get it on the back end. And that's the one thing that a lot of people don't understand. Were you surprised at all by PCE data? It came in pretty much right online.
It was right online, and I think that as long as there was not a 3 handle, and we were at 2.9, as long as there was not a 3 handle, the market will take it in stride. But nonetheless, inflation still is an issue. So when we hear over the airwaves continuously ad nauseum, inflation is under control. There is no inflation. That's a bunch of what. There is inflation, and it's getting proven here in the numbers. So I think the Fed and the market is going to really struggle, Howard, over the next several months, because as much as people want the Fed to cut rates, and as much as obviously the administration wants the Fed to cut rates, you got to be really careful, because if the data that is coming in, yesterday's GDP, today PCE, if it continues to show a lot of strength in this economy, honestly, and the viewers probably aren't going to like this, there's no need for rate cuts. There really isn't, because all that's going to do is stoke inflation even more. Now, I know there definitely is some concern on the employment on the labor side of things. That's what the Fed is looking at. But even yesterday's weekly jobless claims number, which that's just 1 week, it's not a monthly number, but that was much lower than expected. So that also shows some resilience, some strength in the economy. So it is again, as much as we would all like to see rates to lower for our mortgages, for car loans, whatever it may be, with an economy running like this, it probably is not going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think that's what people want to hear, but I am with you. That seems to be the case of what we've seen. Outside of one Fed official, we haven't had a huge, run to the gates of we need to cut, we need to cut. In fact, even Waller and Bowman have sort of stepped aside from saying that.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And, we live in some pretty interesting times, right? Where this is the first time in a long time the Fed is cutting the markets at record highs, and maybe when they don't really need it. But nobody knows for sure. Everybody likes to play the Monday morning quarterback. If I had 100% of the hindsight 2020 fund, I'd be a rich man.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So nobody really knows. But down here on the SIBO, this is great for the viewers that are just coming in first time, or they've been here for a while and they have never seen it actually trading floor other than trading places, Wall Street, whatever.
Yeah.
This is a real life trading floor. Not much going on.
If you replace all of the boards,
about 11 minutes. As soon as that bell rings, the sound will start getting a lot louder, and the activity will pick up, and it's a fun place to be.
Absolutely. I love when I'm there for fly-ins, when we do our events for Prosper. And that leads me right to what I'm going to share our screen for a second here. I got the website up this time, Scott. I got a little bit better and smarter here. And we've got the website. I'll put it in. It actually already is on the banner. We've got an exciting event. Big Beat, myself, will be there with you guys. And can you tell me a little bit about what you got coming up?
Absolutely. And in fact, I've been texting, I have been texting this morning with Big Beat. He is 100% in. So what we do on a quarterly basis here in Chicago, as Howard just mentioned, we fly students in to meet with all of the coaches here to trade, to learn live in person here in Chicago, take them down to the training floor here. This is the first time we're going to be doing this in Vegas now. This is going to be what we do here in Chicago, but on a much grander scale. So in December, I think it's the 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Yeah.
Students, anybody who wants to, going to be flying in, and we are going to have a very intense couple-day conference of learning, of trading with the professional you. That's me, Mike Short,
Everything else,
Charlie Moon, Dan
you
O'Brien.
showed something actually.
Literally hands-on, live in the markets. And oh yeah, we're gonna work hard. We're also gonna play hard, right? We have dinner scheduled, we have top golf outing scheduled, so it is going to be awesome.
Yeah, and we do. We have a lot of fun at these. They're very interactive. And I can tell you from being at Prosper and seeing the notes that come back from the students that come to these, they're trading. It takes their trading to a whole different level. When you get to sit in a room with only, a limited amount of people and pick people like Scott Bauer's brains and Big Beat and Charlie Moon and Mike Shore and Mike Patton and Dan O'Brien. These are folks that have been doing this for 30, 40 years, and they're the best at it. So I could not recommend it more to you.
Yeah, it's always extremely helpful to have a mentor, to have a guide. I mean, that's how I got into the business. That's how I became kind of where I am now. I had a mentor, and I think that you talk to most people, regardless whether it's trading or anything else, it's a mentor that really kind of guides you to success. And that's what we are to our students. And like you said, being able to be live while
They really drive it.
trading live and see what we do and how we can explain to them how we do it, where we do it, how much we do it, right? It's invaluable. It really is.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. We always have a good time with it. You learn a lot. You get a lot of dedicated time from all the different traders there for it. Scott, what are you thinking we do today? Are we going to get some movement to the upside today, or is this a chop day?
Yeah, it is definitely a chop. The fact that S&Ps are only, I say, even only up 20 points right now. Sure, they took the news from PCE in stride, but it's not like, I think we're going to be off to the races here. I think there's still big concern about next week, the government shutdown, about the economy just being really, really robust, which it's interesting because, that's what we want, right? That's what we want to happen. Yet, it's kind of this good news is bad news scenario. So I think we're going to see some chop. I wouldn't be surprised if we end the day pretty close to the flat line today, and people just kind of take small positions going into next week. Howard, if I can ask you to do something, I actually just pinged you in Slack with a link. Maybe you can put that link up there. We are hosting today at noon Central Time, 1 o'clock Eastern Time, a live Zoom, a deep dive into what our Vegas Traders Summit is going to be. So everybody can learn exactly the ins and outs, what to expect, timing, all that good
There
stuff.
you go.
So if you can post that link there.
I got it up
we
there
go.
for everybody.
Awesome. Anybody that is interested, you can just click on that link. That'll give you a registration into today's Zoom call with me and other members of Prosper. And that is at noon Central, 1 Eastern.
Awesome. Yeah, like I said, I can't recommend it enough. We have you get so much information, you get so much time directly with the individual coaches. There's about there's 6 or 7 of us that are there to show you how we trade. I do cryptocurrency. Scott obviously goes over. Yes, you got it, Ron. Post it in the chat. I can do that.
Is that okay if I do that? That way everybody can.
There you go, Ron. So we'll do that. Scott, I got one last question for you, and I'll let you go. We've heard all of this, two sides to one story, in my opinion. There's all this money on the sidelines, and traders are using more margin than ever. Which one of those do you think is actually prevailing, or is it both? I actually have a new philosophy. I think people are using their margin to leave money in their money markets.
Yeah, I agree. I think it is both. People, everybody, it's human nature to get consumed with FOMO, right? You see the markets trading at all-time highs. People want to leverage that. People want to borrow more and more. They want to be involved in the market. But then you have the other side of that people look at that and say, okay, I got to take a little off. I got to get a little safety here. So they park some of that into money markets. So it's really quite a push and pull right now.
Yeah, that's what I am seeing for sure. Crypto getting hit pretty hard over the last few days. I don't think it's over yet. We got a little bit of a bump today, but I've been saying there's just empathy right now in the crypto area. We're not seeing any strength. But what's funny is the Bitcoin mining companies are taking off again. Some of the biggest, gainers this morning are Riot. I don't get it.
Yeah, makes no sense, but you would know more about that than anybody. I am actually going to leave the floor right now because I'm going to head up to the office, which our office is actually live right here in the SIBO. So I am going to run upstairs so I can get into the rooms. I appreciate you having me on, Howard, and I will see everybody later.
Thank you so much, Scott. Like always, we appreciate it. Okay, everybody, let's take a look here. We are about 4 minutes from the open here. Tick still slightly down. Qs are still sliding. You heard Scott say, and I do agree. I think we're going to have a very choppy day without much direction one way or the other here. Not seeing all that much. Just trying to take a look at the Mag 7 quickly here. Apple gets a little bit interesting on a little bit of a further pullback, in my opinion here. Do want to talk about Amazon a little bit, up almost 1 full percentage point here this morning. Good morning, Mr. Flanagan. Hope all is well with you, sir. We'll see you in a little bit. FTC announced a $2.5 billion settlement framework tied to Prime sign-up cancellation claims, includes $1.5 billion in refunds and a $1 billion penalty per agency statements and live coverage. Amazon admits no wrongdoing. I always love these. We're going to pay a couple of $1 billion, but we didn't do anything wrong. Always cracks me up. But that kind of puts them out of the FTC crosshairs. So it does have them moving up so far this morning here. As I had mentioned yesterday, they were down right around their 200-day MA, which for me was an interesting spot to maybe dip the toe in, with Amazon starting to move up already on that news so far. Trying to see what other news stories I had for us. That was really the main news stories I had. Well, a little bit. We've also seen over the last 24, 48 hours, more movement when it comes to Lisa Cook and the president and what's going on there. I'm trying to find my headlines, but I don't know what I did with them. Yeah, no idea. There we go. And what we have seen is some ex-Fed chairs coming out and saying to the Supreme Court, don't fire Cook during this case. Let it go to fruition before you do it. All of the living former Fed chairs, Alan Greenspan, Bernanke, and Yellen, and other policy heavyweights filed an amicus brief urging SCOTUS to block a mid-case firing of Lisa Cook, arguing that it would erode Fed independence. It reinforces central bank independence as a pillar during an already noisy policy cycle. So we'll see how that affects things going forward. A little bit of a dump here on Amazon right now, as we're want to look at the tick quickly. Tick has gone negative again here slightly. So after making a move to the upside, kind of coming down here, and we've seen that NASDAQ has retraced 90% of the little bump to the upside that it got on the PCE release, and I think that's going to be what we see today. We'll see a little bit of movement, but mostly chop versus a one-way direction today. On crypto, I do think we got more downside in front of us here. We haven't seen any real buying step in at any level yet, so we got to figure out where that level is, where the buyers think that crypto is a bargain again. We are open, so let's take a look here. Qs do open up to the down. Well, they open up on the upside versus their close, but you can see moving to the downside and now going slightly negative on the day. SPY up about 17 basis points. Dow Jones a little bit better, opens up about 44 basis points, back above the 46,000 handle, so that's nice to see. Russell up about 22 basis points, so after getting hit pretty hard the last 3 days, the small caps, maybe they're going to be the ones that recover. As I mentioned, NASDAQ to the downside here slightly, SPY giving up some of it. So first moves definitely to the downside here, not very surprising. Definite profit taking coming across here. You see a little bump up here in DXY on the open, so a little rebound there. Gold moving to the upside and staying on the upside here. Same thing with silver. Bitcoin selling off again, falls below 109. That's where you got to be careful here. Ethereum, as I mentioned, lost the 4,000 handle, has a downside all the way down towards 3,800, to be honest with you today. Tick slightly positive. Advanced decline has settled in here up about 2,000. So we do see that at 1944. And NVIDIA now on the downside here, it had been up in the pre-market. So folks taking advantage of that to take some profit. Apple down, but it has started to recover here from the lows of the morning. Microsoft is up about 38 basis points. Google up 70 basis points. Amazon had a quick profit taking scalp to the downside, but now it looks like it is starting to buoy. Meta up slightly. Tesla is the big runner, up 1.86% here. So again, Tesla has been stronger than most of the rest of the Mag 7. Netflix down about 17 basis points so far. We look at the sectors of the S&P outside of consumer staples, everything is opened up to the upside. We do see XLY, which is consumer discretionary, and healthcare sector XLV leading the way. Financial sector looking pretty strong today too, up 65 basis points. So banks getting a bid here. We do see most of the major banks opening to the upside. JP Morgan up about 65 basis points. Bank of America up 80 basis points. Same for Wells Fargo. Morgan Stanley coming in up about 84 basis points. And Goldman Sachs 66 bips there. Chip sector, a little bit of a mixed bag. Marvell is getting hit pretty hard here this morning, down about 2% here. So a little bit of a drop here on Marvell this morning. TSM was also getting hit earlier, still is has made a little bit of a rebound here. NVIDIA now up a 0.5 percentage point. So there you go. Look at that volatility, like we said. Definitely at play, or choppiness, I should say, more than volatility. VIX is continuing to drop to the downside, so I like that. Anything here below that 15 and below the 50-day simple moving average at 1580 for me is my buy area. See what else we've got going on. From the early morning movers, PCAR, which is Peterbilt Trucks, up about 5.16%, holding up pretty well since the open. Plug up 2.75%. Again, has had a fairly good recovery last couple of days after really getting hit earlier in the week. And I mentioned while crypto is down, for some reason the crypto stocks are not. Well, it's a mixed bag. But Riot up about 3.5% here this morning. Webull getting a bid here this morning, up about 4.51%. And what's interesting, PGY, one of the technology companies, was up. Pagaya earlier, pretty significantly up, almost to 38, I want to say. Now back down at 34, so pretty big sell-off there. We talked a little bit about the pharmaceuticals that were gaining some momentum based upon their U.S. manufacturing, keeping them out of the crossroads of tariffs, but we do see them starting to pull back a little bit here. Actually, that is Lee, not Lily. I'm looking at the wrong one here. Now I'm in the right spot, but pulling back a little bit since the open. Same thing with Abby V and Merck. So a little bit of profit taking here this morning on those. Novo Nordisk, on the other hand, people are buying the dip there. So the mean reversion trade seems to be the scalp in play this morning. And a nice little back up by Wayfair here, now moving into the positive today. This was one of the laggards again based on tariff news. Same thing, you see restoration hardware moving back to the upside. Williams-Sonoma, same thing. So it is a buy the dip opportunity there. Costco had earnings yesterday after hours. They had a beat on all their stuff, but people not liking it. And I guess this tariff news hurting them also. Back down about 9/12/68, down about 3% here today on Costco. And I would say Costco down about 7% over the last 3 months here. At some point, to me, that starts to become a buying opportunity. Tick is pretty flat here. Advanced decline continuing to move to the upside. Now 2,500 to the upside. We do see all four major indices now in the green. Dow Jones up 44 basis points. It is actually pulling back a little bit from highs of the day around 46,220. Whereas we see the S&P starting to close in on the highs of the day, which would be 661.02. And the same thing with the NASDAQ. Nice little bounce off of those lows, trying to move back up to the upside. And the Russell here trying to break and now could try to close the gap here. So could be an interesting move. This could be a one to watch today. The Russell breaking 24.19 here could give you a run. Tick slightly negative. Nice move up by Robinhood today, I'm seeing. Up about 1.39%. Robinhood, nice little move to the upside here. Coinbase was up nicely, now moving to the negative. So again, profit taking across there. I had to guess we're going to see that across Riot also. Yep. So those, like I said, those crypto names that for some reason were up this morning with crypto being down so much, now moving in the other direction. Let's take a look at what pumpers we have going on this morning. CRNX Crinetics Pharmaceuticals, big move to the upside, up about 16.71% here. A couple of companies, Perpetua Resources up 15.1% here. I did mention already Peterbilt, PCAR up 6.2%, the truck manufacturing company. Solana Treasury Company, Ford, FORD up nicely here, up 5.2%. As I mentioned, sort of weird. You got the crypto Crypto down. Solana. What's Solana? Solana was below 200, but a Solana treasury company. Yeah, Solana down. Although now crypto is catching a little bit of a bid here this morning, but below 200, coming off a highs of 250. But a treasury company that holds Solana is for some reason moving to the upside. Someone try to explain all that to me. Tick has moved positive again here, so we are seeing some strength come in this morning. Gold back above 37.50 here, 37.55. So we are still seeing that move to the upside also. See what else we have catching the headlines here. Seeing Wedbush just lift Tesla to 600 for their price target. Tesla 600, trading at 429 right now. They raised it from 500 to 600, citing an accelerated AI path centered on autonomous driving and robotics. The firm expects robotaxi rollouts in 30 plus cities within a year, estimating the AI autonomous opportunity at 1 trillion. Wow. Wedbush sees Tesla reaching 2 to 3 trillion market cap by 2026 as federal policy shifts speed adoption. Analysts also flag near-term delivery strength from stabilizing demand and improving sales in China. Wow. So Tesla, that's why they're up 1.4% this morning. Also seeing here, let me put this one into the banners for us. And what we see is economists lifting the U.S. GDP targets. Bloomberg's latest survey sees GDP rising 1.6% in quarter 3, 2025, up from 1.1%. So nice move there with full year growth revised to 1.7%. Inflation expectations were held at 2.8%. So nice little upgrade there from the economists that Bloomberg surveys. Tesla now up 1.5%. I think Tesla is going to start moving here. And we are seeing news, big moves into Tesla calls right now based upon that upgrade. So we are seeing that. Tick just exploded here, up 400 now. So we are seeing moves to the upside. Q's now at 595.26, up 30 basis points. SPY just broke to highs of the day here, up 50 basis points, and the Dow Jones nicely just broke to the upside at 46,260 here, up almost 68 basis points this morning. So we are definitely seeing a nice move. Ron, I don't know what you were saying there. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you there with these crypto. You know, if usually when crypto moves up, crypto stocks move up. When crypto moves down, crypto stocks move down. But there are reasons, obviously, that they do move on their own accord. And with some of these, like Ford, it had been weighed down due to an outsized offering they made. So there are actually some reasons, Ron. I guess I overstated it there. It just seems funny to me. And Riot's actually up on an upgrade that they got from, I have that note here somewhere. No, I don't. But Riot got an analyst upgrade also. But, you know, again, it's just funny when crypto is down so much over the past week to see some of these still moving to the upside and not being affected to the amount there. You do see some of them like Mara that have gotten hurt. I will say Mara starts to get interesting for me here under $16. You can see it's where it tends to consolidate before it makes its moves to the upside. So anything down here in that 15.50 range gets very interesting on Mara, M-A-R-A. banks are taking off today. So this news definitely, all the news here has banks moving to the upside. Really a lot here. All of them up almost up over 1% now. Goldman Sachs 1.22. Goldman Sachs 800 again. Man, nice move to the upside there. And unlike a lot of the other indices or other sectors, there's not much in the way of a laggard that you can find on the major banks. They are all nicely on the top side of the channel above linear regression, all of them well above their 50-day moving average, never mind the 200. I was trying to find Schwab's about the only laggard. There you go. Schwab's the one laggard you sort of have here when it comes. Maybe that gives you an opportunity, but there really is not much. I was looking to see if any of the financials yesterday and overnight, if there were any laggards that sort of gave you some opportunity. I don't see them. I don't really see them. Even the foreign banks. So those banks, to me, a little overvalued maybe right now. Chip sector, wow, man, NVIDIA is just chop, now down a half a percentage point. So we've seen NVIDIA go down 176 to 178 on a trading range here in just the first 15 minutes of the day. That's pretty significant to watch here. Tick still staying positive. So again, Tick has stayed positive since the cash opened with a mixed bag here. I do see Mr. Flanagan has entered the room. We'll get him in here right away. Mr. Flanagan, how you doing this Friday, sir?
Good morning, Howard, and welcome to the viewers. And hey, a little tidbit of information. Did you know that the French pensioners, those that have already been drawing a pension, earn more money than the working population in almost every country? Is that amazing?
Yeah. What you're saying is I got to retire out of France, huh? Get into the pension plan.
You know what I'm trying to underscore when we're talking currencies. You know my feeling on the euro dollar. It is the largest percentage, over 50% of the dollar index. And the dollar index is at 98.35. We're looking to close above last week's close of 97.65. We hit that first break point that we talked about, 97.83. Our second point that we mentioned Wednesday was 98.09. Now we're looking at 98.80, and a break of that puts us back on track for 100, back into at a point in time where this market is as negative on the dollar as ever could be. Now, what does this mean? Howard, I want to underscore something, and perhaps the viewers to give a little tidbit of information on what time of year are we. We are drawing to the last trading days of September. Not only is it September, it's quarter 3 close. We are coming into the home stretch. The dollar has dropped more this year than almost any year since in the 70s. Here we go. The play and the correlation, and this is the important things because computer models love correlations. If this happens, then the model does this. Okay, buying U.S. stocks and selling the dollar as a hedge has been the correlation. Now the dollar is beginning to percolate. Still got to get above 98.80 to really make a decisive break. But if the dollar starts to turn here, what is the implication in the U.S. stock market, especially as all these models and these massive portfolios have to rebalance the portfolio today and on Monday? In other words, use the seesaw. The currency market is the fulcrum at the middle of the seesaw. We know the dollar's been low and people have excessive dollar hedges on, but they're staying long in the U.S. market. My worry, is if the dollar starts to break sharply, it could have a knock-on effect in the temporary, maybe 1 week, into a selling mode in the US market as we begin to see this rebalancing. Critical time of the month to be having all this happen. I'm not saying it will, although I am leaning in that direction. I do like the dollar index. I am long, but I just want the viewers to be aware that the big, giant whales and sharks are now swimming in the pool right now, and anything can begin to happen.
Yeah. Do they provide two-way risk to us?
Well, at this particular point, at around 11 o'clock Eastern time, there is a thing called the WMR fix. Okay, so this is someone on the inside giving you some information. What happens in a window of 2.5 minutes either side is these massive models all begin to feed orders into the marketplace. They're all automated. Now, yes, Howard, it can be a one-sided flow. If the models suddenly trigger, normally the flows of one offset the flows of another.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, $7.5 trillion trades in one day. So I am talking about, several large multiples of billions of dollars, given the multiple of funds that are out there in the world, will execute at this time. So things can get out of hand. Do I expect it? No. It normally is a very well organized event that most don't even know transacts. But sometimes, given the state of the affairs in the world and the marketplace and the positioning, these can get out of hand. So I just want the viewers to be aware. Don't sit without looking at the screens. 11 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. If you get to be on the other side of 11:20 this morning and nothing's happened, nothing will happen.
Okay, well, that's good to know. So there you go there. One of the things I talked to Scott Bauer about earlier, and I'd have to ask you the same question is, I think it's a two-sided discussion, but I've seen the one side where everybody says there's all this money on the sidelines. And then we got this other side that says margin in all of these trading accounts is at all-time high. What I think is happening personally is that people are keeping money on the sidelines, so to speak, to pay bills or worried about bills. And then they're using this available margin at record levels on their trading accounts.
I think that that's a very fair assessment to the situation, Howard. I think you're absolutely right. And my words on the month end are merely, it's dropping the large rock in a pond. It creates a very big splash and a very big hole. But over a period of time of a day, 2, maybe 3, that quickly closes. So I'm not looking for long-term plays here. I do think that there's enough money on the sidelines that any sharp move down in the marketplace would be put to use. I heard you making an announcement on some headline on Tesla just a few minutes ago.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, if you saw a 10% drop in Tesla, that money is going to be, let me take a little shot here at putting a long-term investment on.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's funny. I've been looking for a couple this week. As I said, I've been looking around to see, is there any banks beaten up? Is there any of this beaten up? Where is there? There's not much beaten up. It really isn't. As I even mentioned, crypto stocks, some of them are towards their all-time highs, while crypto has dropped 20% from its all-time high. Correlations seem to be out the window. And like you said, what it has been is the mean reversion trade, right? You talked about that. You and I are both big proponents of that. And that, quite honestly, has been the play. And it's the number one play by a retail trader for sure that we see, out there right now. My worry, I guess, is that, do margin calls start to hit retail? That's the part that I don't know that some of them understand, and I hope they do.
Yes, I would hope they do, because prudent risk management is really my point on a day like today to alert the viewers. You want to be a very good risk manager today. Listen, you want to be able to finish this week up, and Monday. Monday is even a bigger day because I believe
Yeah,
Monday is the month end, and you
it
want
is.
to be able to fight another day. There's three positions: you're long, you're short, or you're square. And sometimes when the big sharks and whales get in the pool, it's good to step on the sideline and say, hey, I've had a good month. I'm just going to step back and look for the excess of opportunity to step in, not to try to trade in the mix on this. Back up, we talked about Wednesday. We had a few big events out there. We had one Swiss National Bank. They kept rates at zero because they're very reluctant to lower interest rates below zero. And that's right, you heard me, 0% by Switzerland. That's where their interest rate. So when you begin to look at the Fed and the criticism on the Fed, let's just grab Mr. Barkin, who is a Fed from Richmond Fed. He
Yep.
said today he doesn't have much confidence in any inflation forecast at this point. Are you kidding me? How about the second comment? He has to be attentive to how little the Fed knows right now about how inflation and employment will evolve. Okay, what does that mean? Come on. I jumped out of my seat this morning when I saw that. Let's just picture this. There's 7 seconds left in a game. You are down by a touch, 6 points in a football game. And the quarterback comes in, and you're on the 20-yard line. The quarterback comes in and looks at everybody and says in the huddle, anybody got any good ideas? I mean, you have to have a leader right now. And the Fed is supposed to be a leader. And yet this is the type of comments. We don't know. We don't really have much knowledge here at all. So when I look at the Fed and trying to fire people, and the Fed independence is the most important thing we have to have, but the Fed accountability is even more important, and they haven't had a call right in 5 years.
I don't know if I'm going to go back that far. I'll give you the last 18 months. How's that?
Right.
Yeah, it is interesting just to watch it all play out in real time. Here, it's tweet analysis, not technical analysis, that's driving the bus still again today. We've seen it with the tariffs. It's moving the markets one way or the other.
That's right.
I did see our man from Citadel, Mr. Griffith, is saying that he doesn't. One of the things that I actually mentioned earlier, so I always put myself in the same exact category as him, except for when it comes to the size of our wallets. He's concerned the president's picking winners. I said that here, so that is still my concern. Is picking winners and losers. Supporting industries I love, supporting sectors I love, but I don't think we should be picking winners and losers. And we'll see how that plays out. What are we watching for? Anything coming up across the globe on economic releases over the next couple of days?
Well, I just comment on the Griffin, Citadel comment. Yeah, I mean, it's a different approach, but it's no different than anything else the government has been doing over the last 20 years. So it's just a different way of doing it. So the second point I'll make is that there was another central bank yesterday that did lower rates 0.25%, and that's Banxico in Mexico. They're now down to 7.5%, and the MEX is beginning to ebb higher. Right now, 1841. Last week's close was 1840.17. Why I bring up the MEX, and everybody may be saying, what the heck is MEX? It is the parking lot to all loose money. If you don't want to go into the euro, which I would highly recommend not doing, and Mexico was not that long ago at 10% and had been drawing all the excess daily money and earning 10%, especially if it's a short dollar play. There was a 6% gain. Today, it's down to 3.5%. And now you have to worry about the weak economic situation that's playing out in MEX. So a lot of money is parked in the MEX. Watch it carefully, because if the MEX, dollar MEX, starts trading higher, it's a signal that more money is being released out of a parking lot into the US dollar and into the US market. So, you know, Howard, when we were talking, where is this money coming? Here's another spot where it could come from. So what am I watching for next week? It's month end Monday. That's my key area to watch. Today is the window dressing. Monday is the real show. And I want to see how things balance out. The dollar is setting itself up to close higher on the week. The Dixie is, last week was 97.65. We're in around the 98.35 right now. And that is above my levels. If we can close up here, targeting 98.80. How fast we move up is going to be the point I would leave to the viewers. If I see the dollar begin to move up sharply, I am right now for probably 48 hours, that's Friday and Monday, I am just a little concerned about the U.S. equity market and a knock-on correlation of dollar up, now taking the hedge back and having to sell the correlated side of that by maybe selling the U.S. equity market if it happens sharply. If it doesn't happen sharply and plays out very systematically, then I don't see the knock-on. So correlations is what you always look for into month-end, quarter-end to begin to break down. Howard, you mentioned one, the crypto markets are trading fairly sharply lower from its highs, and that is a correlation into this asset market that people trade.
Absolutely. And we do see tick still ticking high here, 341, and all the indices moving still to the upside. Dow Jones up 82 basis points, the S&P up 62, and the NASDAQ up 44 basis points. They're up, so small caps again getting some wind today, up 88 basis points. For Mr. Flanagan and myself, everybody, you guys have a fantastic weekend. Like he said, be very wary. 11 o'clock. Make sure you have your DXY up on the screen and you're keeping a look and watching that. It could be a forerunner to what we see. And Mr. Flanagan, I'll give you the last words for the week, sir.
Well, Monday and even more particular, so those two times, but keep the dollar levels on your screens and trade accordingly. Prudent risk management for the next 2 trading days is very sharp. And when in doubt, you buy the stock market, I guess. That's how you finish up.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.